Martin Armstrong says a devalued dollar will crash the Dow. This comes to us from usawatchdog.com, a site that I don't go to nearly enough. They do a great job of highlighting the things that people need to know, but they don't post very often, so I sometimes forget to go there. But Greg Hunter over there says he's speaking to Martin Armstrong. He says the legendary financial and geopolitical cycle analyst Martin Armstrong is back with a warning to President Trump, who's on record wanting a weaker dollar. Trump might try to force a lower value for the U.S. dollar to help offset the trade deficit. Just this past week, Trump is demanding lower interest rates. Experts say this might also lower the value of the U.S. dollar. Armstrong predicts, quote, everything has an international value. If you lower the value of the dollar, then oil in terms of dollar will rise. Look at gold. It's not making new highs right now because the dollar is going up, but chart it in Canadian dollars or euros and it's making new highs. You dramatically lower the dollar and you're going to cause a crash. Again, it could be 40 to 50%. He's referring specifically to the stock market. Armstrong has deep experience in the currency markets. In 1985, he was called by the Reagan Administration about cutting the value of the dollar to spark trade. Armstrong warned, if you cut the dollar, you will have a big crash within 2 years. What happened? 2 years later, the stock market crashed more than 22% in one day in the infamous 1987 stock market crash. It is still the record for a one-day crash in percentage terms. Armstrong says in the end, they said, we think foreign exchange had something to do with the crash. That was the best I could get out of them. They are not going to stand up and say, oh, gee, we caused it by lowering the dollar by 40%. Armstrong is going to write President Trump a letter warning him not to force the U.S. dollar lower. But here's the thing, and this is something we should consider. I respect Martin Armstrong. I'm sure the economists in the Trump administration respect Martin Armstrong, but they also have great intentions of sparking the economy as a whole, even if that means going against the dollar and going against the Dow. This is one of the reasons why they are so adamant about promoting both cryptocurrency and physical precious metals. It's one of the reasons why they're also adamant about getting foreign investments into the United States as early as possible. They want the money to come in and essentially have a higher value than it would if the investments come in later. They're talking to Saudi Arabia. They're talking to Japan. They're talking to as many people as they can ahead of any foul moves. We also have to consider the possibility, and I would say the likelihood, that the Fed is going to, at some point, either work with President Trump or succumb to the pressure of outside forces to try to get interest rates as low as possible. This can help, I guess, in terms of the debt. You know, that's something that President Trump and Elon Musk, for that matter, have been. They're the kings of borrowing, right? That's what they do, and I think both of them feel that we can basically borrow our way out of this. Now, as a Trump supporter, I'm not going to try to outsmart him or I'm not going to go against his policies, because he's done many times in the past, more times than I can count. He's engaged in policies that I would have initially been skeptical about, but that I've come around to believing them to be great. One perfect example of that, by the way, is tariffs. I was adamantly, vehemently opposed to tariffs prior to seeing what Trump can do with them, and that's when I realized, tariffs in general aren't just naturally bad. They're only bad if you misuse them. And President Trump, in his first term, used them very well, and is expected to do even better with his second term. Back to the cryptocurrency and gold aspect of this. Gold and silver, to be clear. It's not just gold. We can look at palladium. We can look at all the precious metals. Anything that's going to have either physical value or intrinsic value, I guess you could say, when it comes to cryptocurrencies, these are the things that are going to benefit if Armstrong is correct. The Dow is not the place to be. Now, it would be silly of me to not mention my sponsors. This isn't the sponsored post by any means. This is the news, okay? I mean, this interests me regardless of who my sponsors are, but I just happen to have two sponsors, one in cryptocurrency and one in physical precious metals, that can help you. So I'm not going to do a pitch. I'm just going to tell you, if you are interested in moving wealth or retirement to cryptocurrency and you need help, you need expert guidance, that doesn't cost an arm and a leg, go to jdrcrypto.com, jdrcrypto.com. And if you would prefer physical precious metals, go to jdrgold.com for the same reasons. I myself, look, I am looking at this, the situation, the geopolitical situation, the economic situation here in the United States, everything that Trump has said, the people that he's hired, such as David Sachs, the people that he is pushing through, such as Besant. These are people that match. I mean, everything that Martin Armstrong is saying here seems to align. And I'm not going to like, oh my gosh, Martin Armstrong, economists are a dime a dozen. He just happens to be one of the the smartest ones out there. So let's see. I need to make sure, because I stopped the article there. I want to make sure that there are always going to be times when we do these stories. And I got caught doing this. I'm not caught like, oh my gosh, you're busted. Caught as in like, I was doing a segment on a story and I realized about halfway through that it was like a sponsored post. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, guys. Yeah, that can't happen, because that's the nature of advertorials. They're supposed to lead you down a path. I want to make sure that this isn't a self-serving piece, because I didn't read the last two paragraphs. So let's go ahead and do that now. Let's see. He's going to write, President Trump, how's this war picture shaping up now that Trump, who wants to be a peacemaker, is in office? Armstrong says that you have French President Macron saying that he wants to send troops to Ukraine. Britain just now sent 20 to 30,000 troops into Romania. They want war. They're basically on the verge of sovereign debt crisis. So they have a choice. They default and say, oh, sorry, we screwed up. Or it's not on us, it's Putin. We have to go get him. The German government fell the very next day after Trump was elected. You see this going on all over Europe. In closing, Armstrong sees gold and silver going up from here, obviously. The U.S. is still the strongest economy by far, but Armstrong's computer program Socrates sees a global recession no later than 2028. Socrates also sees the possibility of war as early as April or May of 2025. Armstrong tells President Trump, get out of NATO ASAP. And there's a 66-minute interview with him. I'll leave the link in the show notes. So yeah, I mean, he's just saying. He's not saying, he's just saying. He didn't mention crypto, which I wouldn't expect him to. But that one's kind of obvious. But he does mention precious metals, but not in the self-serving manner. So I appreciate that. I do support every aspect of President Trump's economic plan, not because I necessarily appreciate all of the individual components, but when taken as a whole, we have two choices. Either we trust him or we don't. Either we take what we have, what we've learned over the last 8 years, not just the last 4 years. We take what we've learned the last 8 years, because things were not perfect between 2017 and 2020. Let's be clear. It wasn't just COVID that ruined everything. There were some mistakes made, policy-wise. And it's the reason that, if everything was hunky-dory, then Trump would have just, hey, let's just go back to what we were doing before. But he has a plan. He and his people have plans to move forward, again, with the focus on things that aren't necessarily stock market favorable, and that definitely aren't dollar favorable. They want to reduce inflation. They want to make things more affordable for people. But arguably more importantly, they want wealth to be flowing through the United States of America. And whether that's through the DOW, which clearly it's not the case, or through physical precious metals, seems likely, and that seems to align also with the direction of the central banks across the globe. If it's with crypto, he's been extraordinarily vocal about his belief that crypto is the future. He signed an executive order banning central bank digital currencies. That was, I had two things. There's a reason why I've been very opposed to crypto up until November 4th. Okay, number one, if Kamala Harris had won, crypto was dead. Okay, it was dead. The United States, it would have been disastrous. I would say Bitcoin would probably be down below 40,000 by now. Okay, but number two, it was understanding the risks of central bank digital currencies. I've always felt, and I still do feel this way, to be clear, but I've always felt that the plan was to get people into cryptocurrency, keep it relatively unregulated, and then flip it on it. And the global sleek ball flipping it to where, here's a Bitcoin crash, an Ethereum crash, everything's crashing. We got to regulate it. We got to control it. We got to figure out some way to control the blockchain. The only way we can do that is with central bank digital currencies. Here's your digital dollar. I think that's still the plan, just not in the next 4 years, and maybe a little bit after that. But I think that before 2030, we could see a massive realignment. Depends upon who wins. This is why one of the reasons why the best thing that we can do, if you want to protect your wealth, protect your retirement, protect the flow, the economy in America in general, we have to push for and pray for success, massive success under President Trump, and hopefully after that under the soon-to-be President J.D. Vance or whoever a non-communist that we can get going in 2028. So yeah, so bottom line, stay frosty. We know that economic policy is going to improve because it's not possible to have economic policy that's worse than what we've had the last 4 years. But I think that we might not just be on the verge of improving, that we might truly be on the verge of a new golden era here in the United States of America. Join me live Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern on X at JD Rucker, or go to jdrucker.com/rumble and get to my Rumble channel.